Welcome to today's wisdom. The world is a noisy place. Let's find some clarity together. You're carrying things you don't need to carry anymore. Not just physical objects, grudges, old versions of yourself, stories about who you should be, conversations that happened years ago, decisions that can't be undone. The weight you feel isn't always real weight. Most of it is the refusal to set it down. Letting go doesn't mean you're weak or careless. It means you're done pretending you can control what's already gone. Today, we practice opening your hands. Not because you have to, because you can. We talk about letting go like it's a choice, like you can decide to do it and then it's done. But have you ever actually let go of something on purpose? Think about the grudges you used to carry that you don't anymore, the relationships that used to consume you, the failures that used to keep you up at night. Did you decide to release them, or did they just fade? Most letting go happens without you noticing. One day you realize you haven't thought about that thing in months, and you can't pinpoint when it stopped mattering. That's what real letting go looks like. Not a ceremony, not a decision. Just a gradual forgetting to hold on. So why do we grip so hard to some things? Part of it is habit. You've been running that conversation in your head for so long, it feels like part of you. Part of it is hope. If you replay it enough times, maybe you'll finally find the words that make it right. Part of it is fear. If you stop thinking about it, does that mean it didn't matter? Does that mean you're giving up? But here's the thing. You can't hold on to something that's already gone. The conversation is over. The relationship ended. The decision was made. All you're holding is the story about it, and stories are heavy. There's a difference between remembering and replaying. Remembering is natural. A thought comes, it passes, you continue with your day. Replaying is different. A thought comes and you grab it. You examine it from every angle. You add it to the loop. You rehearse what you should have said. You imagine how it could have gone differently. You build a case for why you were right, or why you were wrong, or why it was unfair. And none of it changes anything, because the past doesn't care about your closing arguments. The strangest thing about replaying is that it feels productive, like you're working on something, solving something, getting somewhere. But you're not. You've run that conversation 1,000 times. You're not one step closer to resolving it. Resolution doesn't come from replaying. It comes from stopping. There's a kind of arrogance in holding on. It assumes you can control what's already happened. That if you think about it hard enough, long enough, you can somehow fix it. But you can't negotiate with the past. It's not listening. Letting go is admitting that. Not forgiving, not forgetting, not pretending it doesn't matter. Just admitting that you can't change it. And then, slowly, loosening your grip. We carry so many versions of ourselves that don't exist anymore. The person you thought you'd be by now, the life you imagined, the goals you set 10 years ago that don't even make sense anymore. And you measure yourself against these ghosts. You feel like a failure because you didn't become someone you were never going to become. What if you stopped? Not because you're giving up, but because those versions of yourself were always fiction. The only real version is the one sitting here right now. And that person is enough. The same goes for other people. You carry versions of them too. The friend who betrayed you. But the version you're angry at is frozen in time. The real person has probably changed. The parent who disappointed you. But the version you're arguing with is from 20 years ago. The real person might be completely different now. You're having fights with people who don't exist anymore. And winning those fights doesn't change anything. Here's what nobody tells you about letting go. It doesn't feel like freedom. It doesn't feel like relief. It feels like nothing. That's what makes it so hard to trust. We want catharsis. We want a moment where the weight lifts and we feel transformed. But letting go is quieter than that. It's just not picking it up again. One day you notice the thought, and instead of adding it to the loop, you just let it pass. And then you do it again and again, until one day you realize you haven't thought about it in weeks. That's what letting go actually looks like. Not a breakthrough, not a decision, just a gradual forgetting to hold on. So, what are you carrying right now? Not what should you be carrying, not what makes sense to carry. What are you actually holding on to? A conversation, a relationship, a version of yourself, a regret. You don't have to name it. You don't have to analyze it. Just acknowledge it. And ask yourself, is the loop helping? Is replaying this for the 1,000th time getting you anywhere? Or are you just tired? Tired is a valid reason to stop. You don't need to forgive. You don't need closure. You don't need to understand. You can just be tired. And tired people put things down. Not because they've decided it doesn't matter. Not because they're weak. Just because holding is exhausting. And they have other things to do with their hands. You can't force yourself to let go. That's like forcing yourself to fall asleep. The effort defeats the purpose. But you can stop adding energy. You can notice when the loop starts and choose not to feed it. You can let the thought come and then let it leave. Not every time you'll get caught in the loop again. That's guaranteed. But each time you notice and choose differently, the grip loosens a little. Not because you're trying, just because you're not trying so hard. What would your life look like with lighter hands? Not empty hands. You'll always carry something. But lighter. Holding what's here instead of what's gone. Carrying what matters instead of what you can't change. That's not giving up. That's just growing up. Learning that you can't hold everything and choosing what's worth the wait. So you don't have to let go of anything right now. That's not how it works. You just have to stop gripping so hard. Just for these few minutes. And then maybe tomorrow, a little less. And the day after that, a little less again. Until one day you notice your hands are open and you can't remember when you stopped holding on. That's the goal. Not dramatic release, not cathartic breakthrough. Just the quiet surprise of realizing something heavy has become light. Carry what you need to carry and leave the rest. Not because you've decided to, just because you're tired. And tired people deserve to rest. When you're ready, let yourself return to the day. Carry what's worth carrying, and maybe, just maybe, grip a little less. Go easy. Think clearly. Found some clarity? Like the video and pass it on.